Hello, seventh graders. Today we are going to start our chapter on the Civil War, and we're going to start with section 17-1, which is called The Conflict Takes Shape. So, if you remember, we have the North and the South. They're now divided. After chapter 16, we know that several states seceded or left the United States and started their own country, which is called the Confederate States of America. So it's now the Confederate States fighting for their independence against the United States, trying to keep the country together as one. Before the war started, neither side thought that the war was going to last very long. They were both confident that they were going to win and it wasn't going to take much time. They thought, the North thought, hey, we've got a lot more people and it's going to be pretty easy, kind of like what England thought in the Revolutionary War. And the South was kind of like, hey, we're fighting for something and we think we could have a chance at this and do this quickly. The North was so confident that they only originally enlisted their soldiers for 90 days. They said, hey, come fight for 3 months with us and we'll take care of this and it'll be over in that amount of time. The war ended up lasting a little bit more than 90 days. It lasted 4 years, so well over 1,000 days, April of 1861 through April of 1865. And there is a book that's called Across Five Aprils because there were 5 Aprils in there. And that it's a book about the Civil War, and it is written, and the story takes place in Jasper County. And it's got, obviously like Newton, and it mentions Olney in it and that kind of thing. So if you're into this kind of story, then that's something I would recommend you picking up and reading. The reason for the war was not slavery. That's what most people think. And if you ask a lot of people, what was the reason for the Civil War, they're going to say slavery. The actual reason was because the South left the Union. Now, why did they leave the Union? Well, because they had very little say in the government. Because after the election of 1860, they saw how much control they did not have, and they were afraid they were going to lose slavery. So slavery was a big part of it. But the real technical official reason for the war was for Southern independence. They left the United States and they wanted to be independent. So in the South, they called it the War for Southern Independence. The people in the South, they wanted to keep their traditional way of life. They were afraid of losing things that they've had all along, especially slavery, is the big issue, but they wanted to keep the way of life and keep things the way that it had always been. The North, on the other hand, they were just trying to get the United States back together. So if you could see the resemblance um, with this in the Revolutionary War, the United States was trying to stay together. The England was trying to stay together in that, and the United States was trying to break free. So there's a lot of similarities there. Abolishing slavery was not an original goal of the North. In fact, many people approved slavery. They didn't have slaves themselves, but they did not. They weren't necessarily against it. They thought it was a good thing to have to keep the Southern economy strong, and therefore keeping the Northern economy strong. But most people in the North thought slavery was wrong and it should be banned.